Hey, hello and welcome to the show. It's me, John Park, and here we are for John Park's workshop, also known as Ask an Engineer tonight, because I am in the Ask an Engineer time slot, and I am so glad that you came and stopped by to watch the show. We just had a very excellent show and tell, and now here we have the John Park's workshop in the Ask an Engineer time slot happening again. And I am waving over at our friends over in our Discord chat. So if you're wondering where the chat is happening, you can jump on over to the Adafruit Discord. It looks a lot like this, and that is found by heading over to adafruit.it, and then you can adafruit.it/Discord, and then you can look for the live broadcast chat channel. That is where this is happening. Also keeping an eye over on our YouTube chat, but I am not keeping an eye on Twitch or other places. So if you're in one of those places and you're wondering where everyone is, you can head on over to Discord. That's a good place to do it. Let's see. Next thing I want to do is say to all of you who celebrate it, Happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. And I wanted to share with you a little thanks of my own there with a coupon code that you can use, Gobble. If you type in Gobble in your cart on the way out in the coupon code section from the Adafruit store, you can get 10% off on your order. And that's good on everything other than gift certificates, subscriptions, and software. And that is good until midnight East Coast time tonight. So you've got a few hours there to use that coupon code, buy some cool stuff. I believe we are not shipping on Thanksgiving, so there'll be a day off there from shipping, but it'll resume as normal after that. But if you want to go and get some cool stuff at the store, then get yourself 10% off using this coupon code, Gobble. Gobble, gobble, gobble. But just one gobble. Just type that once. And let's see. Let's talk about our show and tell. So let me look at my notes here. We had a Scott Shawcroft show up, and he was talking about the web workflow in CircuitPython on the PicoW. So while Scott was off on leave, a bunch of work got done on the Wi-Fi PicoW stuff, and he is now starting to integrate that into the web workflow so that you can connect your PicoW up to your local network and find it in the browser, which is very exciting. Phil B came on to talk about an old NeoPixel story, going back to the very first NeoPixel wars of 2012. And he, for some reason, recently remembered one line in the datasheet of the very earliest driver chip for the NeoPixels. I think this was the Flora V1 product, had an LED on one side and had a big driver chip, fairly big driver chip on the other side. And it always said that you were supposed to use a 400 megahertz data rate on those, and then later ones we could use the 800. But he suddenly remembered a line from the datasheet about a double data rate, and he thinks that he'll be able to actually excise some legacy code out of the NeoPixel libraries because of this sudden remembrance. So way to go, Phil. Milad and Derek came on to show off their Rocket Switch, which is a sort of carrier board for a Trinky, little USB plug-style board that we have, a few different kinds of Trinky. The carrier board that the Rocket Switch is, and a little 3D printed case for it, allows you to plug in assistive switches so that for different disabilities you can use assistive switches with a platform that exists already in CircuitPython to do things like HID and other types of accessibility switching. And lastly, we had DJ Devon 3 come on with his cyberpunk ski goggles / fog collectors. And these are some really stylish looking wraparound goggles, a little bit like racquetball goggles, that have a channel, or actually I don't know how he fixed them if he said, but he's affixed a set of the LED nudes, one on top, one on bottom, I think it is. And they light up super, super bright. He's got a QT Pie, I believe, and a little LiPo battery on the back. And he said they fog up a lot, so don't actually use them for skiing. Some suggestions in the chat for using shaving cream as a fog protector. When you wash them, use shaving cream and then wash and wipe that off. But those are pretty cool. He said they actually light things up a lot. They're actually pretty effective lighting, so that's pretty cool. Thanks, everyone, for bringing those things onto the show and tell. Let's see, what else have we got? Let me jump over to this, the Help Wanted sign. And let me find my Adafruit jobs board, because we have a jobs board. If you're not aware of it, head on over to jobs.adafruit.com. You can not only list your own info and resume if you're looking to get work, you can also post job positions if you're looking to hire someone. And you can see here we've got all kinds of different positions that can be anything from full-time to part-time to remote work, on-site, contract, freelance, you name it, it's probably there. So if you're looking for work, this is an entirely free job board. Costs nothing to use, nothing to post your job position you're looking for, nothing if you fill the slot, nothing if you don't. You just need to have an email address account with Adafruit, and all of the positions are vetted by Phil and Lamore, so you know it's good stuff. So that's the job board at jobs.adafruit.com. Next up, I will mention my Tuesday show. That was just yesterday. So on Tuesdays, I have that right there, which is the JP's Product Pick of the Week show. On it, I pick something, usually something new, but sometimes something from the archives, that is in the Adafruit store. This week, it was this iSpy breakout board. I like to give you a little demo of things, as well as a big discount. This week, it was 50% off to get the iSpy breakout. And here's a little 1-minute recap. The iSpy breakout for SPI displays. So when you want to hook up an SPI display to a microcontroller, you've also got the SD card memory over SPI and I2C. All of those cables there, that was all SPI display, SD card power, all the different clock and data lines for that. Instead, now we've got a little iSpy connector right there. Nice long one, cable in this case. Insert the cable and click that little connector back down to lock that in place. I'll lift up the little connector flap there. Slide that in. Usually it's this blue side up on these, the pins face down towards the board. Flying Toasters demo here, that I think Phil B wrote this with graphics from the Ruiz brothers. So there, I've got a nice easy way to connect up a different display. Product pick of the week this week is the iSpy Breakout. All right, so what's next? Let's talk about CircuitPython for a moment. Let me get set up here. I've got a little CircuitPython parsec for you. CircuitPython parsec. All right, you can see it in action here happening right here. Here we go. For the CircuitPython parsec today, I wanted to talk about iterating incrementally using a pair of loops. So what am I talking about? It's easiest to just look at the demo here. You can see I am lighting up sets of NeoPixels. So you'll see when it restarts here in a second, we're going to start with just one NeoPixel. It's off. 1, 2 NeoPixels, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a type of count up that sometimes you need to do. How do you do it? Well, it's actually done by just embedding one loop inside of another. So if you look at my code here, I'm doing a few things. First of all, I'm importing some libraries like time, board for pin definitions, NeoPixel, and the Rainbow I/O color wheel. I've set a hue there, 90, which is the screen I'm using. And then I've set a number of LEDs. I set up the LED object on the board for the NeoPixels. And then when I am running through the main loop here, what happens is I have a maximum count, and that is how many we can get up to with each set of counting. So max count is a variable in the range of however number of LEDs, however many LEDs we have, plus 1, so I can get to the end. And then inside of that loop, so it's going to start off as 0. The next time that loop, that sort of bigger over loop runs, it's going to be a 1, then a 2, then a 3, and so on. Inside that loop, we have, for the current LED, another variable in the range of the max count. So that's up to 10 LEDs that we have. We will light up one of them. So the first time that stops on whatever the max count is, plus 1. The next time it adds 1 to that. The next time it adds 1 to that. And so this is a way that we can increment through something in steps inside of a loop. And that is your CircuitPython parsec. Hey, I was just noticing someone in the chat said that they were not having any success with the gobble code working for them. Let me know if anyone else experiences that, and we'll see if we can look into that. I'm not sure if there's anyone doing support on the show that can check, but I can go in there and check myself. If it's not, I'll make sure that we get it working by the end of the show. So check on that for me and let me know what you see. And actually, while I'm at it, let me pop open my YouTube chat because it disappeared. Where'd you go, YouTube chat? There you are. See if anyone there also has success with that code. Change that to live chat there. Yeah, invalid coupon code. Okay. All right, wait 1 second and I'll see what I can do. Let me see if I can log in here. This will take a moment. I'll tell you what, actually, I see Blitz is in the chat. Liz, do you do coupon codes? Do you have all that stuff happening? If you do, let me know. I'm going to start heading there to fix that right now. If you know how to do that, I'll let you take over. But let me start jumping in here real quick. Over on YouTube, Joseph Newcomer says, what's the word on the latest Adafruit project? Which Adafruit project are you asking about? You're asking about product, a project for a guide, an Adabox? If you're wondering about Adaboxes, we have Adaboxes starting back up in the new year in 2023, so there won't be any this year. But we should be aiming for sometime in January or February to get the box out. Oh, that's okay, Liz. Liz says that she's not able to get into our coupon thing, but I can do it if you'll just bear with me here as I get a authenticator code. And we'll see what happened. Maybe I entered a wrong date or something. All right, we are moments away from seeing what happened. Oh, yeah, I didn't update it. That's interesting. Something didn't save. All right, hold on. What's today? The 23rd. And I don't know how long this takes for it to go into the system, but we are confirmed. Okay, so try that now. Coupon code GOBBLE should work. I'll put that back up now with the hopes that it actually works. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was showing that it had never been entered, which is weird. Either I hallucinated most of this morning or something glitchy happened. Pretty fair odds it's one of those two things. All right, let me hide that over there. Yeah, so that's coupon code. Try that now. Let me know if anyone is able to get that to work. You should get 10% off. It should be good until midnight tonight. And it's working now. Great. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. I don't know what happened. I'm sure it was me. But go buy some stuff. And get yourself some good stuff for a discount. Okay. What next? This is couple little things I like to bring up here. CircuitPython, which is code plus community. And what am I talking about here? I am talking about our newsletter. So we have the weekly Python on microcontrollers newsletter. And here is this week's edition. There were, if you're curious, how do you even sign up for this? Just head to adafruitdaily.com. Put in your email address. We promise to never ever spam you or send you anything you don't want, but you will get the newsletter and you can cancel at any time. There are a number of different newsletters you can sign up for, but this one here is Adafruit Daily Python on Microcontrollers newsletter. You can see them in an archive. In fact, I think if I back out one from here, oh no, I had saved my link and pasted it. But if you just go to adafruitdaily.com, you can see links to the previous issues. And there's some cool stuff I wanted to point out in here. One, we got the Mu editor version 1.2.0 has been released, and this includes the new SNEC mode, which is for microcontrollers that are too small to use MicroPython. They can use SNEC. I've never looked at it myself, but there it is. There was also a article here I thought was interesting about this video here, which is, I think I have the video open, in fact, right there. This is from Kevin McAleer. Sorry if I'm not getting your name right. I posted a video just showing you what it looks like when you run into this problem in Mac OS Ventura, which is the latest version. If you upgrade your Mac to Ventura, or if you get a new Mac that happens to have that on there, there is a bug in, or they've changed the way drag and drop works, and it is messing up the ability to actually flash USB microcontrollers using UF2. So this is a little video. You can see it in action there. Then let's go back here to the newsletter. There was a couple different cool MIDI articles here interpreting music and MIDI as a visualizer, as well as someone who added one to their synth keyboard. And there was a really cute one on here. This is the blog post. There's also a video. This is at gurgleapps.com, whatever that is. It's called Kids Hack Their Brother's Computer Using a Raspberry Pi Pico Rubber Ducky. So Raspberry Pi Pico can act in USB HID mode, and these kids pranked their brother so that it would do rubber ducky things, which if you're not familiar with that's essentially USB HID injections into a computer that's running. So it can just start typing, it can move your mouse for you, it can open up things using macros. So very cute demonstration here, a little prank video of using the Raspberry Pi Pico as the rubber ducky. Another one from the newsletter here was this really cool thing from Pete Lomas Pi. Says they fell across an interesting idea from EDAC Europe about these edge connectors. These are sort of, I think, slightly spring-loaded, springy metal clip edge connectors that you can use with the castellated pads on the Pi Pico to affix it to another board. So you can make a carrier board or add it to another project using these really neat-looking little spring-loaded clippies here. And Pete went on to find an example of them at Farnell. So that's pretty cool. I like that idea of a little alternative, a sort of flat alternative to pins and a breadboard. And on. So go and check out the Python on Microcontrollers newsletter and get that in your mailbox if you want to see great CircuitPython and other Python, MicroPython, SNEC Python types of news every week. And yeah, as I mentioned, here's another little sort of news flash. We mentioned this a few weeks ago. Adabox will be returning in 2023, so just due to parts shortages, we didn't have any for this year. We also never charge your credit card until we actually ship, so no one's been charged. I don't think there are many, if any, slots open, but people sometimes do take themselves off the list, so you can put yourself on the list for the next one. You can also subscribe someone to the Adaboxes as a gift if you want. So head on over to adafruit.com/Adabox to learn more about that. let's see. Another thing I wanted to say before I move on with other regularly scheduled content is I will take questions in the chats, both the Discord chat and our YouTube chat, and I will, if you want to go ahead and post those now, I'll try to keep an eye on them during the show, but I will address them at the end. So throw any questions you got there. Also can, of course, be questions for the community. Ask them anytime. Let's see. As far as new products, we don't have any this week, so we will skip that, but we'll be... We do have some things that are going to be coming soon, so we should have some new stuff out next week, but I don't believe there were any new items since earlier today that came out. All right, let's see, what else? Okay, so I mentioned in the blog post for the show today that one of the subjects we will be discussing this week is some infrared blasting. Let me actually jump first to, I can go back to this Chrome page here. Let me show you the part I'm using for much of this. So let's go back to Adafruit. And this is the IR stemma right here. Adafruit high-powered infrared LED emitter stemma JST PH 2mm. That's a catchy name. So this is a breakout board that has a couple of infrared LEDs, one facing forward, one facing up, to get some pretty good coverage. It also has the ability to add one more sort of large 5mm IR LED to it if you want. And this powers them at a higher current than you'd get just running off of a typical microcontroller pin. And so this is getting power, ground, and data for flashing the IR LED or LEDs over a JST plug. So we have a couple of varieties of these plugs in the store. The one I'm using for some of this stuff today is a alligator clip one, which is really neat. It means that you can just easily clip this onto a Circuit Playground Express, or in this case, a Circuit Playground Bluefruit. Circuit Playground Express, in fact, has an infrared LED on it and an infrared receiver, which is great, really cool for different types of remote projects. However, this one is a lot more powerful, so it means you're going to get a greater distance. It has greater coverage because of the pair of LEDs. They're both flashing at the same time. You can really go wild by adding a big 5mm IR LED to it. And since the Bluefruit Circuit Playground Express does not have an infrared LED on it, you normally wouldn't think of using it for remote projects, but by adding this to it, now we can use Bluetooth and IR in the same project, which is kind of interesting. In fact, first thing I want to do is just demo this. So what I'll do is, let me go to a full view here and keep an eye on a couple of TVs I have here. So, and I haven't tested this with all my lights on. Sometimes that can mess with things, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do, of course, you normally could just program these to press a button, but imagine you're in a situation where you don't want to be holding a little remote in your hand and clicking an IR. You want to look like you're just looking at your phone. Well, it's been a long, long time since phones had an infrared transmitter and receiver in them, which is too bad. Or maybe there are some still, but certainly none of the iPhones, none of the iOS devices have that, which is kind of a bummer. So what I'm going to do is use our Bluefruit app. I'll give you a better non-blown out version of that under here in a second. But just to demo this, I'm connecting to the Bluefruit receiver, Bluetooth BLE receiver right here. And then I'm going to go over to my, on the Bluefruit app, I'm just going to press the one button. I think the one button is the one right behind me. So if you look at Lars there, I just turned off that TV, and I did it with my Bluetooth remote. That's a lot of things to hold on the screen. So let's try the other TV over there, that Toshiba. So I'm going to press the 2 button, and bzz, there it goes. Now, one of the fun things, sometimes frustrating things about IR codes is pretty much most consumer devices use the same button for on and off. It doesn't know about the state. for reasons of you don't know what the TV was up to when you came there. So the same thing goes on and off. It does mean sometimes you can turn stuff on when you mean to turn it off if you're trying to sweep through a whole bunch of codes. So in fact, what I'll do right now is I'm going to hit the up button. The up button is actually programmed to run through both of these codes. At least I think I still have it doing that. Do I? Let's find out. I might have broken that. I heard it. Okay, I've got the speaker making sounds. Let's see if I'm... Well, it turned off the one, but maybe I'm blocking this one, so try it. Yeah, I'm not getting that to... All right, so take my word for it. I don't know, I can't remember. I think this camera blocks IR, so I don't know if you'll see the little purple light here when I press this. So try. Oh yeah, you can see it. There goes the little purple light, and that even bounced right off the monitor and is turning the TV on and off behind me, so you can see that little blinky there. So that is essentially taking our idea of the TV be gone and using Bluetooth to trigger it instead of just the physical buttons. So what I wanted to do next was just take a look at this in the code briefly, just to show you some of the updates I've done here to get this working. So let me jump into this view of the world right here, and I will open up the code.py that's running on there. All right, and so what you'll see here is this is based on, we have a guide on, which one is it? I'll have to look, but we have a few different infrared guides out here. I think this one is just the main sort of how to use an IR receiver guide that Limor wrote, and then it has a section on taking codes and flipping them around and sending them out. This one in its normal state will run through all of these codes. So here you can see every one of those lines is a different remote. So there's 207 different remote codes being sent there for power. So that'll run through pretty much everything. This is based on the TV Be Gone that Limor and Mitch, why am I forgetting your last name, Mitch? I'm so sorry. Limor and Mitch, someone's going to remember it in the chat, worked on a long time ago. Limor, not too long ago, took that old code and was able to get it to work under CircuitPython. So she's created this table of the different codes that are needed to run through every remote. What I did was I actually pointed that at a TV and counted the number of clicks, because this you can have it either show an LED or make a little tiny click-click noise on the speaker. So I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and the fourth code was the Sony code, which happens to be with this TV, even though it's a Westinghouse that uses the Sony code. The 10th code in this list happened to be Toshiba. So what I did then was I made, just sort of hastily, a single text document that just has the Sony code and a single text document that just has the Toshiba code that I'm using. And the reason is I just wanted to use a couple of the buttons in the Adafruit app. So when I press one of those buttons, instead of opening up codes.txt, which is the one that will run through all of those, depending on the button I press, I'm either asking it to open codes.txt, which is, I just have 2 of them in there, Sony, which just has 1, and Toshiba, which just has 1. So the up button in the remote app versus the one labeled 1 or the one labeled 2, will send those different ones. So it was just a proof of concept for me of how could I be selective about which sets of codes I'm sending, or have maybe more of a universal remote approach if I just wanted to change maybe the volume and the video input and power, then I might need like 5 buttons, and that would work well for the Bluetooth app. The other thing I wanted to do was, so Kayoshi says I've seen people use IR receiver to get inputs from an original remote for programming their own device, and this is a great point. So sometimes you don't have a code that you can look up online, especially if you're using a weird device. Instead, you want to read it, maybe read it a few times and take an average, and then send that. So that's where using a receiver is helpful. So what I want to do is show you just a little bit about what that looks like on the oscilloscope over here. So I'm going to move over to, here we go. Yeah, let me move over to the bench here, and I'll grab let me grab the remote I was just showing, because I know I've got a couple codes on there. I also have the real remotes, so we can see what that pattern looks like. Okay, so let's turn this TV back on. I'll use an actual button on it in this case. And what I have here is one of our little IR receivers right here. This is a IR, or it's actually like a photocell and a little integrated circuit that does the decoding. It takes power and ground on these two legs, and then this is the output where it sends out pulses. And so what I can do, if you look at the screen here, if I take, this is the remote that powers off this TV. I'll just change the volume on it. So you can see there, you see that little line that showed up there, my volume's going up. If I press that here on the oscilloscope, I'm going to zoom in a bit here even more. So check this out. You should be able to see the difference between volume up and volume down. So up, down, up, down. So usually these will do something like have a long pulse, like a 2 millisecond pulse or something like that. And then you'll have these very small microsecond pulses that are forming the message. And these are essentially, in this case, I think this is essentially binary by saying it's either the short pulse or the long pulse. And you can see the gaps there are different depending on the message you're sending. So that's the volume up, volume down. Whoops. Okay, so there's volume up, there's volume down. If I hold it too long, a lot of these remotes are programmed to repeat. Oh gosh, let me see, is that? Sorry, I just noticed that the focus looks sharper. There we go, it's a little better. A lot of these remotes are programmed to repeat. So if I hold it down, it's actually sending it multiple times, and the way my oscilloscope is set up, it's kind of flowing off the end there, and we're not seeing it. So I got to tap it quickly to see the difference between volume down and up, down, up. And you can see if I tap the same one multiple times, it's basically unchanged. There might be some tiny fluctuations. Same sort of thing if I do, let's say, the number 1, like you're sending a channel, versus 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can see that that's what the message looks like. In the case of power for this one, you can see here's the power message. All right, that turned it off. Here is, I'm going to take my little remote. Sorry, I wish I had programmed the hard buttons to work again still. I think this is which one is it? Hello? 2. Okay, the 2 button. That just turned it back on. So if I take this and point it here and hit 2. Okay, mine actually, I think I must have a trailing, it doesn't affect its performance, but it does affect how my oscilloscope is looking at it. But for a moment there, you'll see a pattern, and it's going to be the same as this power button. So that, or that. I'm pointing my phone at it as if that matters. It does not. Here's the other signal here. This is shorter. The Sony messages are really short by comparison to a lot of others. So that one, when I press it, is not sort of flying off the side of my oscilloscope. So here's a Sony remote. In fact, I said it's a Westinghouse TV, but this is a Sony DVD remote that has a TV power button on it. And you should see, oh, you can't see that TV right now. All right, it will turn that TV off. If I hit the IR receiver connected to my oscilloscope here with it, you'll see we get a there's that repetition, but the gap between repeats is small enough that I'm not losing it off the edge. So these should look the same. So there's my phone remote sending it, and I'm not repeating it, so it just shows up once there. And here's this DVD remote that has the same power button. So same pattern there. I'm no good with my oscilloscope, so I can show some pretty pictures to try to visualize and conceptualize it. I'm no good at measuring things and spitting out nice data, which is something that can be very useful for actually finding out the exact timings you're looking at. However, as someone mentioned in our chat, you can hook up your microcontroller and the IR receiver and then look at your serial output, and some of the sketches out there, particularly some nice Arduino ones that will package up a nice array for you that you can use to then send that back out. So let's see. Yeah, so that's sort of the basics of what's going on here, and how I'm using this one. And the other thing I wanted to do was take a look at a possible other future projects. So I think I'm going to do a guide on this one, making a nice little Bluetooth-based, innocent little, we've got like a battery on here that'll last a long, long time. You could hide this somewhere nowhere near you, and then you can use your phone to mess around with a TV, which might be fun. You might also do it for practical reasons instead of having to make it into a prank. You can use this to make a universal remote that you can use over Bluetooth, which might be convenient for some use case. The other one that I'm really interested in is this wild, ancient device that I just picked up. So let me move this out of the way here. And I'm going to turn off the power to that. There, I can turn off the scope. No, you know what? I'll leave the scope on. Let me leave this stuff on in a second. But first, the preamble. So there is an interesting history to wireless controllers for video game systems. And so you can see here, let's see if I can switch my cameras up for a second. You can just barely see here. It's under that other window. I've got a Nintendo Entertainment System here. I'm going to go ahead and power that on, and I'll switch my input, which I do have to use the remote for, I'm using just the composite video one. And you know what? Just for a second, I'm going to hide this camera view here. Okay, so you can see that in action. And so normally you've got the issue of however long a wire you've got on your remote is pretty much how far away you can sit. And so this one, I don't know, is maybe a 6-foot cord. That's it. And with smaller TVs in our living rooms growing up, this was fine. You sat on the floor in front of the couch and you played. But in a modern world with a TV much farther away, sometimes these cords are a little annoying. And so if you've ever used wireless remotes, in the old days, they were often fairly terrible. They were either using some sort of radio frequency that wasn't very reliable. It wasn't really until the Wavebird on GameCube and then some of the later Bluetooth-based things on Xbox and PlayStation, where we got really good wireless remotes. I always assumed there was never a good wireless remote on the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Turns out I was totally wrong. There is this system called Nintendo NES Satellite, made by Nintendo, not a third-party thing. It is excellent. It is a 4-controller port device, so you can play a few 4-player games that were designed to work with this, and the cartridges had to be made for it, because if you look here, in fact, let me turn this off for a second, the NES in its normal state just has 2 controller ports on it. So most games were designed for these 2 ports. I know you can't see those too well, but 1 and 2. And you would plug in your little 7-pin connector cable there, or your light zapper, light gun, and you'd play your game. This has a pair of the same controller port plugs, and it sends a sort of round robin, I think, of controller messages as if you had an extender for having 4 instead of 2. But even in the use case of just one controller, what you do is you plug in your one controller here. You have a switch for, is this a controller or is this the light gun? For some reason it needs to know. You've got some turbo modes here that will sort of auto cycle some of your buttons for you. And then you got power. When I turn on power, there's a little red LED there that's telling me that it's sending, it's ready to send messages. All you need is line of sight, and it's got 6 C-cell batteries in it, a really powerful transmitter, so it works well as long as you don't get right in front of it. It actually works really well from a good distance, so I'll just set that there. And as you can see, it is very responsive. So here I am, let me turn the volume down on this. No physical wires, I can be really far away. And I notice 0 lag with this. This works absolutely great. The IR is fast enough that I can play Mario just fine here without any problems. And all that's happening over IR. If we, let's jump back, pause this, and yeah, let me get the scope back out actually. And let's bring this back into view here. You'll see something interesting. So my idea was at first, hey, I'm just going to try to capture the IR signal from this and then spit it back out, just like I'm used to doing with other remotes. I looked online and there wasn't any discussion anywhere that I could find of the codes or the protocol that's being used, but I was hopeful, somewhat naively. So here you can see if we, hopefully if I haven't screwed this up, are you still running? Uh-oh, I hit a bad thing. Let's see, are you powered on? No, you're not, okay. That's just noise because I was not powering on my... Okay, I might have to do some scaling here real quick. Whoa. Getting there. Okay. So I'm pressing the A button here, and I'm seeing something, right? And hopefully it's something repeatable. I'm pressing it a bunch, and I'm seeing these messages. However, even when it's just sitting still, what I noticed is that there's sort of a keep alive or something else that messages that are being sent from this is not just like random IR noise. This is really specifically like the 38 megahertz, is that what it is? Signals that are saying, hey, yeah, I'm getting IR of some kind, but this is trying to communicate here. I don't know if it's bidirectional, but it's definitely sending some messages. I've captured these and tried sending them just off of the microcontroller. Didn't work, couldn't get Mario to jump, which is what I wanted to try to do. So I may be getting some help if there's anyone in the community who's really good with this, with IR, or has ever encountered this thing before, or can find info on it that I couldn't find. I'd love to know, because I think it's a kind of an interesting one here to say, okay, what would it mean to have a microcontroller with an IR that can run a game of Mario for you remotely with no wires attached? Is kind of interesting. And maybe not even have to use this thing. The other side of the question is, what's up with these things? How do these guys work? So this is, I happen to have a spare one of this, but this is the receiver. We can take that apart actually. It's got a IR receiver chip and photocell in there, but it's also sending the commands, maybe with a shift register, but it's sending the same commands that the controller does, which is usually a little shift register based thing. I think it runs off of 5 volts, which is what it gets off of some of these pins. So just if you're curious, let's Oh, this one's in there. Good. Let me get a bigger screwdriver. I'm looking around. Do I have any ratcheted screwdrivers around here? This has got 4. All right, this is just going to be the slow part here while we get these open. Also, Anne Barella had worked with Lamore at one point on doing there's a guide in the Learn system about communicating with the Nintendo Rob, which is the sort of robot companion. And the way Rob worked was similar to the way the light gun works. There was commands being sent with bright pixels in the scan line of the CRT, which is why it won't work with a modern TV, because the modern TV basically throws up the whole image at once. There's not a scan line that can be looked at, or a single pixel of light to look at. So that guy did reverse engineer it and get it working on a microcontroller. I just put that, just out of curiosity, I put that code on and tried to see if sending an A to Rob was the same as sending an A to Mario. Here it's not. This thing was blinking to indicate that it could tell someone was trying to send it IR signals, but it was not anything that it responded to. So that's probably not surprising. Nintendo wouldn't want multiple things running with the same protocol. So there you go. The connectors there are for 2 controller connectors plus the power and ground. This is the little indicator, light pipe, and red LED. We've got a nice big IC on here. I'm gonna have to desolder this to get past this shielding thing, I think, and see what's actually in there. So there's not a lot that you can see, but right here is the IR receiver. It's just hidden under this plastic here. So that's the receiver. Very similar, in fact, to this one we have right here. Could be the same product, basically. It's doing the little receiving there. Made by Hori, H-O-R-I. They do a lot of peripherals. They did a lot of peripherals for Nintendo, as well as sell stuff under their own name. And some through-hole resistors and other passives there. Juicy little capacitors in there. So that's all that I can say about that. But I was fascinated by this. I had no idea until recently this ever existed, and was really impressed at how well it works. So kind of want to poke around with that more. Let's see. Let me jump back over here and let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. If anyone has any questions over in YouTube or in our Discord, let me know. There's a nice picture, a GIF actually, of Rob in action, doing Rob's thing. Yeah, actually, they're not, I don't know how rare they are. I got that for like 25 bucks for some reason. It was, if you get stuff from like a pawn shop or somewhere where they don't quite know what they're looking at, the seller sent me the 1 base and 2 sets of receivers, just because the receiver can plug into the base. So I think they didn't know exactly what they have. I don't have any use for the second one, but there it is. But yeah, they're not crazy expensive. I don't know how many of them they made, but why did I never hear of them? They work really well. All right, so let me back up here and see what questions we have. Mitch Altman, thank you, Mouse. I was so sorry, Mitch, I forgot your name. All right, question. Now that I have RGB step switches, it takes 4 pins per step switch. I'd like to keep the rainbow PWM capability. Is there an I2C LED driver for 16 step switches that someone can recommend? 16 times 4, 64. This is for the TR cowbell. All right, I don't know the answer to that, but if anyone sees something and can post it in the chat, that would be great. I got a couple power inverters from Amazon with this very sawtooth-looking wave. They're supposed to be modified sine. One box shows a stepped square, not this. Do you think this is likely damage something without filtering the wave form? A quick PC power on test resulted in a loud buzzing from the PSU, and I was afraid to run it longer. Oh, all right, that's another one for the chat. Looks like some nice is testing out some of the Paint Your Dragon theories on this over here on the data rate for the NeoPixels, the old ones. Let's see. Yeah, someday I'd like to create a Logitech Harmony replacement using CircuitPython. Yeah, you know, I feel like maybe I've seen some people do this, but the magic of those is in the execution of how well those do things like learn from another remote or let you enter in codes from a list. I mean, there's just a lot of work that goes into doing a good universal. I had one that was pretty cool back when I had a 36-inch 16:9 CRT Sony Wega that weighed over 220 pounds, I think. For that I don't think it came with it, but for that I got a Sony IR Commander, I think it was called. It had like a LCD touchscreen, giant learning remote, like twice the size of a Palm Pilot, but kind of the same aesthetic. I don't have it anymore, I missed that thing. Let's see. Yeah, and Kiyoshi also mentions that using an iReceiver to get inputs from the original remote. TV Be Gone was Mitch's design, that's right. And he collaborated with Lamore on a version of it. I don't know if we still sell the kit, but there was a kit form that was like a PCB that sat on top of a 9-volt battery case and had 4 IR LEDs in 2 different wavelengths, 2 slightly different wavelengths, 940 nanometer and 960 or something. And so it was just more powerful. You could stand further back and blow away a bunch of TVs at once with it. Yeah, Toddbot mentioned IR library from in Arduino is good for capturing and decoding. I also was just sent from Brent. Brent Rubel sent me a link to another IR library from Chris, one of our community members. Let me find the link to this. That I also, just before the show, was reading raw stuff from the Nintendo satellite to see if I could understand what it was doing. Let's see, this is... I'll put that in the chat. This is a cool looking example there in library in Arduino. Let's see. Yeah, the plugs on these do look a bit like a DeWalt battery. The little gizmo here looks like you could stick it into the bottom of your drill. And off you go. All right. All right, if there's no other questions, then I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Let's see, did I miss anything? I think we're good. So, like I said, gobble gobble. Get yourself a discount at the store if you want to head on over to get yourself some IR receivers or something like that, and get a discount on the way out. Head on over to Adafruit.com, go to the store, just type in gobble on your way out. You'll get 10% off of your order, excluding software gift certificates and subscriptions. I never say that well. What else? Happy Thanksgiving to you if you celebrate that, and we are all so thankful for you, the community, for being part of this, for supporting each other, for, of course, buying stuff at Adafruit Store, which help keep our lights on, but also contributing in our chats and our Discord, on the forums, and writing guides. So thank you all so much. It's fun to be able to do this, and we're glad that we're able to do it together. Let's see. I missed one question. Let's see. Someone said, what was the question? My dad's been using his ancient Samsung Note 2 with an IR blaster as a remote, so this would be helpful to replace it. Ah, yeah. Oh no, is the feed jumpy laggy? I missed that comment earlier. Yes, thank you. I will try to eat just the right amount. Happy Turkey Day to you too. And I think that's going to do it. So for Adafruit Industries, I'm John Park. This has been John Park's Workshop, and I will leave you with your moment of Xena.
Thank you.